Hi everybody, I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, Sarah Muller. Sarah, it's so nice for you to be in studio today.
I know, I'm excited. I feel like this is just like bonding time. Let's talk politics.
It is, and I introduced you as my Forbes colleague because you are a jack of all trades. You wear many hats. You're a producer, a reporter. You're in Des Moines. Let us know what you're seeing on the ground. We will start by breaking down the most recent morning consult tracker for the 2024 GOP presidential primary, and then we'll just go from there. So let's see. Donald Trump is leading the charge, as we all know, at 55%. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is at 20%. A surprise, Vivek Ramaswamy at 8%. Former Vice President Mike Pence at 7%. Nikki Haley at 4%. Tim Scott at 3%. Chris Christie at 2%. And Asa Hutchinson, Doug Burgum, Francis Suarez, and Will Hurd all at 0%. Let's break this down. What is surprising to you?
Well, there's not a lot that's surprising here. I think the one big standout is obviously Vivek. I was talking to you the other day about this, where it kind of feels like he's the Andrew Yang of this election season. He's young, he's got really fresh ideas for the party, and he kind of comes off as very assertive in those ideas, and he's really appealing to this younger crowd. I was backstage with him at one of the events, and there was a young woman from Iowa State University that had been campaigning for him, and she was just very passionate, very excited. And I think there are a lot of people, it's kind of like, if you're in your camp, you're in your camp. There's no moving. And that's how I feel about Trump, too. Trump supporters. We have these other GOP candidates trying to sway Trump supporters. At this point in the game, they're not going to be able to sway them. You know, everything that's come out between investigations, things that he said, things that he stands behind, January 6th, all of these things, if you're still supporting Trump, you're still supporting Trump. So that's not really surprising to me. However, I do have to say those kind of, I don't want to say lower grade people in this scale, but Asa Hutchinson, we were talking recently, I went to the Family Leader event this last week, and knowing Asa Hutchinson's platform as a very agriculture-based guy, you would think he'd be appealing more in Iowa, which I'm really surprised that he's not. I don't think he's getting the FaceTime. I don't think he's there as much as he should be. So there are certain people that it's interesting to see the layout, knowing Iowans and being an Iowan myself, that you would think that they'd be performing better, but they're just not.
Let's start with the frontrunner, Donald Trump. You did mention him, and you said his camp's not moving. So I just want to ask for certain. I mean, this calendar year alone, he's faced 2 indictments. He has an investigation in Georgia right now that there's the question of will he or won't he be indicted for that. Does that matter to voters? What are they saying on the ground in Iowa? Do they talk about this indictment at all?
I think if you're in the Trump camp, you're kind of seeing this as a circus, right? You're seeing this as a political stunt. You're thinking this is the Dems trying to work against a former president. Now, if you're not quite in his camp, you're looking at it like we just need another option. That's what I kept hearing from voters when I was interviewing them outside of some of these campaign events is I'm just looking for anybody but Donald Trump, right? We need somebody who can beat Donald Trump and the Biden administration. And there's not very many people who can do that, but one name that obviously gets thrown out is DeSantis. A lot of people feel like DeSantis can do that. I think a lot of people feel positive towards some of those lower ranked candidates, but unfortunately they just don't think they have the backbone or the energy to be able to surpass Trump, let alone Biden.
Let's talk a little more about DeSantis now. I remember the day after the midterms on the New York Post, it said the future, and it was Ron DeSantis looking rather presidential with his wife and kids. Does it look like he is the future in Iowa?
Well, I think this is so funny because, I mean, I've now seen him and Casey and their kids together. We saw them at the Joni Ernst roast and ride, and the kids were all getting ice cream and stuff. He has this little picture perfect family that's good for this GOP run. This is a young guy who's got young kids. He's got a very charismatic wife, and honestly I would say, as far as FaceTime, when we talk about like, can I get a beer with them, are they relatable? Sorry, but DeSantis doesn't really have that. As according to some of these people that I'm talking to, it's actually Casey that has that more so than actually Ron does. So it's interesting to see how Casey is playing a role in his campaign, but I could definitely see how people look at this family and say, yeah, they could be a first family of the United States.
Every time we have a conversation, the topic of can I get a beer with you always comes up every time. And that's what people say is Ron DeSantis, one of his flaws as a candidate is he doesn't come off as that affable person. He comes off kind of cold, kind of icy. Have you ever seen this outsized role that his wife's playing where she's kind of being that person that can grab a beer with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been videos circulating online and I've seen them up close, and you know, she's just very warm, very personable, whereas Ron kind of has like this standoff mentality of being very, you know, clinical in how he talks. I think one of the things that Ron has as well in his corner, whether it's a positive or negative, is that people want to see a president that's going to get things done for their party. So obviously he's done a lot as governor in Florida. He passed a lot of bills here in the last couple of months. But the other thing that people I know I'm hearing from GOP or Republican voters is that we want somebody who can work on the other side of the aisle too. We want somebody who can work together and do bipartisan efforts to further our country. And because Ron DeSantis has taken such a strong approach to how firm he is in, you know, different issues, it's kind of put off the other side. So can we find a president that can really do both and work with both parties? And there are some voters who are questioning, can Ron DeSantis do that?
Ron DeSantis, as we all know, has waded into those culture war issues. He is crusading against what he's describing as woke. Is that a turnoff for the people of Iowa?
No, I think one thing that people forget is that Iowa has its own things going on right now that is setting a tone for where we're at. So obviously Governor Kim Reynolds has been trying to pass a heartbeat bill, which would ban abortions after 6 weeks with some exceptions. And that got barred for a while, and then it got passed again, and she actually signed it last Friday into effect, and now it is barred again. So there's this whole conversation happening right now around abortion. There's a lot of conversation. There's even a legal battle happening with one of the schools around parental choice and transgender legislation and whatnot. And so there's a lot of things happening kind of internally in Iowa that is setting a tone for presidential candidates that are coming in. So even though they're state issues or regional issues, they are in the forefront of, you know, people's minds when we're talking about woke ideology or parental choice. Like, these are things that we're seeing in our schools, in our libraries, in our wherever you're at. And so there's already a tone happening here, and it's already a discussion. So when they're coming in, they're actually feeding right into the conversations that are already being had.
That's really interesting. And I guess aside from the culture war issues, those what people are describing as woke issues, what are the other issues that you're hearing from voters in Iowa that people will really care about, that really resonate with them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the economy, that's no one's surprise there, but the economy is so huge. There's a lot of concern around agriculture issues, specifically also about ethanol. It's really interesting. There was a report done by the Des Moines Register a couple months back that pretty much said ethanol, there was another report done, a scientific report, that said ethanol wasn't as, you know, eco-friendly as we all thought it was going to be. And so there's conversations that need to be had on the agriculture side that I feel like have not been discussed. And that's where I come back to like Asa Hutchinson, who is an extremely interesting candidate and has a lot of agriculture interest. But he I feel like we're so focused on the like woke ideology or, you know, abortion or some of these other issues that we haven't even gotten into some of the agriculture things that are impacting farmers, which obviously is kind of the backbone of Iowa.
Sarah, I know you said that voters are really excited about Vivek Ramaswamy. What else, aside from those underdog candidates, who else are people excited about when you're at these events? Because you're on the ground week after week at different events in Iowa. Who are those candidates that you are seeing that you could grab a beer with?
Well, I think everybody's got their eye on Tim Scott. Everybody I talk to is like, I love Tim Scott. I like his energy. I like his, you know, conversation. But a lot of them that I still hear is, does he have a backbone enough to, you know, attack the issues that we're concerned about? And one of them being Russia, another one being China, some of those international issues and security issues that people are concerned about. And so even though I think this is an interesting conversation around the whole, can I have a beer with them? Because sometimes people take that at face value. We're not necessarily saying like, actually, can we go grab a Busch Light together? But it's, can I have a relatable conversation with them, or are they going to be clinical and very kind of cold in how they discuss these issues, like Ron DeSantis. However, when we talk about some of these people like Tim Scott, he is very charismatic. He's very warm, very welcoming. He's got very good FaceTime with people. But then I look at people like, Will Hurt's got that same kind of like emotional mentality of, let me just talk really straight with everybody. And so it's kind of like give and take. What do you want out of your candidate? You got a lot of different options to choose from and a lot of different personalities.
Let's look down the road a little bit here. We have around 6 months until the Iowa caucus. What should we look out for immediately next and kind of between now and then? Do you anticipate anything changing? What can you tell us?
Well, okay, first of all, we have a really big dinner at the end of this month. There's essentially the Jefferson dinner in Des Moines. It's going to have every major political donor and candidate there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be interviewing people, so look out for that content. But also, you and I are going to the Iowa State Fair. We're going to get some fried food, look at the butter cow, and we're going to talk to some candidates. And so I'm so excited. But that's going to be massive. That's a lot of FaceTime. You're talking hundreds of thousands of people in one space for candidates to come and chat with them. And then Des Moines Register obviously hosts their soapbox speeches, their stump speeches that allows them to kind of literally get on a stump and get up and talk to voters about their issues that they're concerned about. And then they go and flip burgers. So it's a really, really important time for that FaceTime.
And it's an important time because it's in a more relaxed environment. That can I grab a beer with you? I mean, we'll see that playing out all there. So everyone, look out for that content. Sarah Muller, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.